Hi there, everyone. My name is Taf. I'm a final year medical student at UCL, and welcome to Medmentor's weekly live clinic session, where we answer your Q&As that you have regarding the medical school application process, life as a medical student, as a doctor, everything of the sort. Hello there. We are House of Medics, another aspiring medic. Thank you for joining us again. Nice to see you. Nevin Queen underscore R has joined. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're on live every week on Saturday at 6 p.m. And we are here to answer your questions. So drop your questions below on the comments or as a question card, and I will do my best to answer them from my experience as a medical student, someone who's been part of the interview panel at UCL and had mentees go through the process over the last 5 to 6 years as well on top. So we'll partake as much of advice as possible for you guys. So yeah, we've done this for the past, I think now 2 to 3 months. And it's been really enjoyable for me, hopefully very useful for you guys. If you want to catch up with other question and answer sessions we've had recently, have a look on our Medmentor Instagram page, where you can have a look at things that I've answered in the past on topics. And if you want to chase them up on the Q&A here, feel free to do so every Saturday. Okay, let's have a look. So we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitter, and we're live on medmentor.co.uk, and obviously live on Instagram as well. We've already got our first question coming in, and I'm guessing is from another aspiring medic. And yes, that's good. First question, how are you doing? I'm doing very well, thank you. I had an exam at the start of the week. It's called, at the end of final year, we have a prescribing safety exam that allows you to basically prescribe medication when you're a doctor. Hopefully that went well, but after the exam, I took a bit of a break and about to start revising for finals exams coming in a couple of months. But it's just been a nice chill week since then. But yeah, thank you for that. How are you doing, another aspiring medic? How's life been? How's the application process going for you? At this moment in time. I know that's normally in the back of our brains. Thank you for the question. It was very lovely of you to ask. Cool. The next question I have is from we are House of Medics. What year are you in? What did you expect when you got into medical school? Did it meet your expectations? Oh, that's a very good. Those are very good questions. So first of all, I'm in my final year. So I'm a final year UCL medic. So we've got 6 years in our degree, and I'm in my 6th year. What did I expect going into medical school? I don't think I thought of it too much. I think I thought more of the idea of medical school was amazing, and going into higher education at like a top institute was amazing. But because I didn't know any medics in the year above or many people that got into uni, like I didn't really know what to expect apart from studying. And I think I just thought university was a lot of fun based on like movies and people just coming back. And obviously, when people talk about university, they're only going to talk about the nice things, not the grueling tasks. So I don't think I expected the intensity of work that there would be in medical school after A levels, because the intensity of work definitely increased tenfold, and there was a lot of hard work needed in the last 6 years. So I didn't expect there to be so much hard work and so many hours of work, but there really was, and it was really tricky and has been very tricky, but it's been enjoyable. But at the same time, yeah, I don't think I expected it to be so much fun, and I didn't expect there to be so many opportunities outside of medicine to do things. So whether that's me being involved in Medmentor, doing the weekly clinics, or being part of startups that I've been part of in the past, or being part of a charity organization that I am doing, and like the societies and stuff like that. Like I didn't know there was that whole sphere of university where you can do stuff. I thought you only start doing things after you get a job or like have a proper life. But that was really like a nice surprise. So it went above my expectations, I think, medical school in that sense. In terms of medicine itself, I think the idea of medicine is amazing. I think when you actually come to study it, it is a lot more about the influx of information that you can retain in your head. And so as much as medicine is very challenging and inquisitive, I don't think it met my expectations of like critical thinking and stuff. I think more of the humanities and other like sciences ask you more of that. when in medicine it's more about having that vast information in your head so you're ready to use that to make critical decisions kind of later on down the line rather than as a medical student. So yeah, that's awesome. We're live tomorrow speaking to some professional doctors that are senior on the field. Would be good to have you on. Thanks. We are House of Medics. If you drop a mentor message, maybe we can see what we can do about that. But good luck with tomorrow's event. It's really nice to have people speaking for who are senior doctors as well. It's loads to learn from them. Another aspiring medic. Glad to hear you're doing well. Waiting to hear back from med schools, basically for offers/reject offers. So just looking at student finance and accommodation at the moment, as well as resting, of course. Well, that's very good to hear. Student finance is really good to look at this early on. I think by May you should be trying to apply properly, and accommodation is per university in it. So have a look. If you have any questions about like weekly living costs in certain universities and like any random insider like questions that only university students would be able to answer, feel free to ask them. I lived out in my first year of uni, and since then I've lived at home, but obviously I've got loads of friends who have lived out, and yeah, it's a really enjoyable experience. I hope you guys are excited or for the next few years of your lives, because university is pretty amazing. Someone who's about to leave university for the working world, I'm really going to miss student life and the kind of like amazing opportunities and events and things that go on. So make the most of the next few years is what I'd say for anyone applying. Hopefully that will do you guys good. Cool. So the next question I have from you guys is from Queen R has asked, does it matter what medical school you go to? No, that's the short answer. No. Whether that's first on the university rankings to last, we all get the same degree at the end of it. And especially more so at the end of your 5 or 6 years of med school, you get ranked across the country from like 1 to whatever number. And that doesn't take into account your medical school, it just takes into account where you came in the ranking in your exams in medical school. And that's how you get allocated your F1, F2 jobs, and based on this SJT exam. So like exams basically make that decision for you. There's no such thing as people's names next to a university there. Maybe for later on in the years, specialty applications, maybe what medical school you go to makes maybe a little bit of a difference, like maybe a positive difference on your application. But there's like, just because you're from one medical school, not the other, doesn't mean you're guaranteed a job or not. That's not how it works. It's all about the application process. It's just, it will add something more if you're from like a higher, like ranked institute, maybe, but nothing that's huge. I think it's interesting because unlike other careers, the institution you go to doesn't make that much of a difference when it comes to medical school, in the wider scheme of things. And when you go up every year in specialties and go for consultancy, doesn't make a difference. Whilst like I know for other places, like for example, if you went for finance, obviously you're going to be aiming to get into Oxbridge, LSE, UCL, stuff like Imperial, stuff like that, so that you have a big name, so that you can apply for a big job. That's not how it works in medicine. So I think that was quite a nice stress relief getting into med school, is that actually after I get in, I don't really need to stress about where I've gotten in. I'm guaranteed a job at the end of it, and then after that it's about me doing my best. Obviously, the better your medical school, the better they might prepare you for these medical school exams, for life as a doctor, but that's more to do with the practicalities of someone's medical course, of which I don't think there's any problem with any medical course because it's all standardized across the country by the GMC. So in short, no, it matters not at all what med school you go to. Just go for one that you want to attend. That's what my advice would be. Hope I've answered your question there in the longest way possible. Sorry about that. Cool. The next question I have is from Amy Louise. Hi, Amy Louise. Thanks for joining us. Do you think there is any value in doing an EPQ when you're already doing chemistry, biology, and double maths? Wow, you're doing quite a lot. Hopefully those are going well. I'll be honest with you. An EPQ is like any other extracurricular activity that you do. You don't have to do it. It's just if you're interested in doing it, and obviously it'll add something to your application. On your personal statement, something you can write about, talk about in an interview. So if you want to have that extra little bit, yeah, go for it. I don't think you're going to lose that much if you go for it, apart from a few hours here or there on evenings across in the year. But obviously, if it's too much hard work, then maybe it's not worth it. But it's a personal decision. I myself didn't do an EPQ because it wasn't offered to me. However, if it was offered to me, I think I would have taken it up. Just because I was interested in doing further reading and sciences and stuff. I would have done something more like humanities based. I have a friend that did an EPQ on like the sugar tax. This was 6-7 years ago, so now the sugar tax is a thing now since of the last 2 years. So she found that really interesting and she enjoyed it. She did loads of wider reading, helps you gain good skills for university when you're doing university type assignments later on, and just it's a really good learning curve. So an EPQ, I would encourage you to do it if you'd like to. No one has to do it. Loads of people haven't done it and got into med school. There's just something else to write about in a personal statement. Yep. But choose a nice topic that you're interested in and not something that will weigh you down. Obviously, if you're stressed about A-levels on top, then and you don't want more headache, then that's fine. Like, again, not really a problem. Queen_art, very glad to hear that was helpful. Any follow-up questions, feel free to ask. Subhair, I think Subhanir fan 01. What med school are you at? I'm at UCL in central London. What med school do you want to go to? Body Bound Studio, do you know if you can do an EPQ if you aren't doing A-levels? I'm doing an access to medicine course. Sorry, Body Bound, I don't know if that's possible. Have a look online. I won't be able to signpost you to that. Just being honest, sorry about that. But great, you're doing an access to med course, so that's pretty cool. Good luck with it all. Okay, so P-O-O-May Pumay. Sorry, Pumay? I've maybe pronounced it wrong. I apologize if I have. Your question is, hi, just wondering if you recommend the September or November BMAT. I think most people in the last few years did their BMAT in November or like end of October, whenever it's supposed to be in that time, mainly because they had UCAT work experiences to do and other things. And that was like 80% of the people did it in like October and November. And it's more convenient, it costs less and stuff like that. And some people did do it in September, but I don't see the benefit of doing it in September because Oxford is the main university that cares about your BMAT being really high. And so because Oxford really take your BMAT into account, they care about it, but they're the only ones that don't care about your September sitting, so or like don't want you to do it in September. And so I thought that there was no point then to do it because the only like if you got a below average score in the BMAT, it doesn't mean that you're not going to apply to UCL, Imperial, Leeds necessarily because they don't really have a cutoff on a just below average or average score. So I think you would have maybe applied anyway. So I don't know if it's just futile doing that. The other thing is I think this year BMAT was just one sitting in November. They might do it again. I'm not sure. Have a look on the website just because, and we don't know how coronavirus is to allow them to do it. I think the difficulty is just getting test centers open for you to do the BMAT, which is the practical implementation. So whenever you want to do it, I don't think is stressful. I think just take into mind the timeline of your application and what things are going to be difficult when. For example, I did my UCAT in the first week of September, and I did work experiences in like the last weeks of July. So it gave me 3-4 weeks to revise for UCAT. You won't be able to revise UCAT and BMAT simultaneously. You'll need at least 3 to 4 weeks to UCAT for UCAT revision, and same separately for BMAT. So that's why using October to revise for your BMAT after your personal statement in September is pretty good. It's a pretty good shout and a safe bet for everyone revising normally. But obviously you have A-levels at that time. But obviously earlier on in the year, you won't really care too much about your A-levels compared to your medical applications. It's all about priorities then. All right. Sorry. I hope I've answered your question there. And I'm sorry about my username. It's a spam account. You can read it as Poo. I don't mind. Sorry. That's fine. I'll just call you P.O. Sorry, I just thought I got your name completely wrong, and I don't want to get it completely wrong. Hi, your name is Amy. No, that's fine. That's much better. I'm in year 12 doing biochem and maths. I love it, but definitely don't do it for the sake of doing it. It's a lot of work, and your grades are more important than a bit of extra research. Thank you very much, Amy. You have been very helpful in answering that question. If you guys have any advice for a few things or like tips, feel free to comment below, just like Amy's done there. I'm really appreciative of it because we want to build a little bit of a collaborative community here. So you guys have great uh, experience. All right, Elizabeth, you've asked me a question on the comments, and let me answer your quest card first, and then we'll get to imposter syndrome because I have. And have you experienced? Yeah, okay. So you've asked me that. Perfect. So I have experienced imposter syndrome. I think I still experience imposter syndrome, being final year medical student, and I probably will until I've made it. Of which I don't know what that actually even means. So for those of you that don't know, imposter syndrome is kind of like a feeling of not belonging in a certain field or place or area, most often than not because you are underestimating yourself and compared to like the real life expectations of you. And a lot of the time it's it's just it's something that's very tricky. I think a lot of people, especially in medicine and like jobs or in like stressful fields, think about a lot, because it's just overwhelming when you enter medical school. There's a lot to do, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot of amazing people there, and it's really cool. It's really good to be positive about it, but at the same time you can't help but feel a bit overwhelmed, out of place, especially if you've come from a background where high achievement maybe isn't the norm, or like medicine, for example, or like if you go into a law degree or whatever, in medicine, this medicine degree, if you don't have people that you know as medics or doctors, you might feel like, oh, am I at the right place? Am I supposed to do this? Am I good enough is the main question. And yes, I feel it, and all my friends feel it. A lot of the time, you'll be surprised how many people feel it. And we're all on the same boat. So what I'd say is, yes, don't worry about it because it's a natural phenomenon. And all you can do is take steps to kind of alleviate that imposter syndrome. And that's by kind of working through it, being logical in your own head, reflecting on your experiences, what you've done, the fact that you deserve to be here. Because the medical school application process, for example, is really, really, really tricky, right? You guys are going through it. You guys know how difficult it is. And I'll tell you right now, if you've gone through the application process, 99% of medical students become doctors if they want to be. Therefore, clearly you're good enough and they want you there, these medical schools, to become doctors. If they believe in you, why at the very least don't you believe in yourself? And I think I talk a lot in this in these Medmentor live sessions about how you need to believe that you're going to make a great doctor, you're going to make a great medical student, no matter what background you're from or what struggles you're going through, because you can do it, and you've come so far in terms of your applications and like putting your effort in. It's about kind of believing in yourself, and I don't think I did that enough when I was in year 13 especially, and I didn't do enough in my preclinical years. And only when I started getting to clinical years, I was like, oh, maybe after passing these exams, I've done all right, and I've gotten to a right place, and maybe I can become a good doctor. But I think it's more like just believe in yourself because you know you have it in you. It's not arrogance, it's just confidence in that sense. Elizabeth, hopefully I've answered your question to an extent with a bit of an explanation. Any follow-up questions to that? Have you experienced imposter syndrome? In what scenario have you experienced imposter syndrome? Feel free to comment below. And what do you do to overcome imposter syndrome? And do you agree with what I basically said, you guys? Dr. Atelophobia, hello, welcome. I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. It's good to have you back on the Insta Live. Hey guys, good to see you all. Cool. The next question I have is, okay, so let me just get through Elizabeth's. Elizabeth asked a lot of, Elizabeth, the question did come through. I think it just came through like 4 times accidentally. Cool. Next question I have is from another aspiring medic. Cool. Are there any habits, study, or lifestyle you would advise aspiring medics to start before med school? Yes, I think I'm also at the phase of transitioning into work as an F1, hopefully in the next few months. So I'm starting to build habits in my personal lifestyle that I can move forward into a hectic work schedule. And for you guys, it will be very similar going from year 13 or year 12 where you're well obviously in this pandemic era as well, to then going into the big bad world of university life and being basically more of a grown up. So it's nice to have systems in place that will get you in order. So what I always okay, so I'll do it split in two sides, right? I'll talk about study, because we're all nerds here, so we'll talk about studying first, and then I'll talk about lifestyle. So, talking about studying, what I like to do when I study is scope the subject. A lot of the times, like go through specification criteria and things, and tick things off of like topics and things I need to break it down, things I need to know before my exam, like facts and concepts, and why I need to practice, what resources I have, and I collate them all and I put them in a document, and I'm like, and I go through those things and like make to-do lists and make revision plans that are like that are more day-to-day and specific. And those are things that I still do to this day, and I started those habits in year 9, year 10 for my GCSEs, and they've served me really well, and I still continue them. So those study habits that keep or like study plans that keep you well right now, you're going to translate them, maybe adapt them here or there, or you could just change it completely if things if you need to adapt completely, that's fine, but just have that in the back of your mind. The way I revised was with multiple resources, made notes, then active record questions and things like that. That's still something that I did in year 10 and I'm doing in my final year of med school. It's the same type of process because I know what works for me for revision, luckily, and it's good to experiment, but again, that's something similar. Any other habits with studying? I think, yeah, the active recall methods are really amazing, and I think you're just going to make use of it and better it as you go through medical school, just because you simply have to in order to get through the vast amounts of information. So, yep. In terms of lifestyle, I think you're very early on at 17, 18. Like whatever lifestyle habits that you put in place that are beneficial, you're gonna want to continue. So whether that's playing, like, so for example, I used to play football like every week, 5 or 7 aside with my friends, especially in school because it was really easy to do. And then I continued doing that at university to keep up my fitness, and like keep in touch with my friends and like just enjoy myself and relieve some stress. And a lot of medicine is about relieving stress because there's a lot of stress going on. And so because of that, like I've kept my exercise routines up there. I've picked up different sports that I've enjoyed as well. I think a lot of people have started practicing mindfulness and meditation and yoga and self-reflection, journaling, things like that. Those are really cool things that you could be practicing now, and that will serve you well throughout medical school as well. So like if you like, because as a doctor we are always constantly reminded to reflect on the work that we do, what we see, and it works in all aspects of life, not just in medicine. So I would definitely encourage that. Cool. So those are the habits that I would actively encourage. So hopefully I've answered your question there, another aspiring medic. Hey guys, thank you for joining us. If you have questions, drop a question card or drop a comment or question on the comments and it'd be lovely. Okay, so Amy says, I'm considering UCL. Would you recommend it? And are there any major negatives? Woo! I really, really recommend UCL as a medical school. It's an incredible med school, very diverse, very like just like at the top of the game when it comes to medical education. It's got amazing teaching hospitals. The campus is amazing. The university is wicked. The opportunities in central London are second to none, especially compared to others in the country. You've got world-leading experts teaching you. I mean, like societies are amazing. The people, medics here are hopefully, like, I think they're more well-rounded. People have more of a personality. They try and get involved in loads of societies and like other extracurricular things, like most medics in my year and years above have done that. It's a really, really nice diverse bunch and we have a lot of fun. And it is one thing I'd say is that UCL's curriculum is not as integrated as other PBL, problem-based learning type medical schools, where they don't chuck you in clinical placement from day one, year one. you only get proper clinical placement in 4th year. So it's very much more of a traditional course with lecture-based teaching, 9 to 5, first year and second year. Loads of hard science being drilled into you, with some applications in clinical medicine. However, not all like easily translatable. But I liked that idea in a course. I wanted a traditional course because I thought I wanted more of a background in science before I got into 4th year, 5th year of clinical medicine, so I could have more of a grounding before I meet patients and start doing doctor type stuff. But other people, and even looking back on it now, I don't know if I would have enjoyed maybe just having more insight with clinical placement, seeing doctors, seeing how people work, seeing patients. It gives you more perspective, motivation, sometimes, and I think I would have really enjoyed that because I entered medicine for the patients, rather than the pure scientific basis of it, and that's why UCL maybe had that little bit of a drawback there. And in terms of other negatives, is that I'd say that UCL's, I think all med school exams are really tough. I think UCL's exams are very tough as well, if not some of the toughest. With the information that you get, some of the first year, second year exams were horrible, even compared to some other med schools that I know my friends are at. So like exams will be very difficult and the process of that. But obviously once you're in, like 99% of the people pass and go through, you're just stressed a little bit more than usual. So that's more of the major negatives, that if you're going to go into a competitive medical school like UCL is, you're going to get the equivalent in terms of hard work and late nights and working really hard on placement and in the library. But I think that's with most things in life. I think if you really want it hard enough, like you're just going to work that much harder and you're going to be resilient to get through it. And it'll like if it's an ambition, you're going to enjoy it. And I'll be honest with you, like I really enjoyed getting through these few years of med school, and like it gives you a sense of accomplishment that you've come from like for example, UCL is like 9th or 11th in like the world rankings for medicine in the world, which is nice. It's nice. Like it's coming back to an earlier question, is like, does what med school you apply to really matter? Like it doesn't truly, but it depends what you do with it. So for example, if you wanted to do something outside of medicine and you've had UCL as your name, or like a top like or elite institute, which most of the med schools are, you're obviously going to get good CV points, for example, whether that's going for organizations in like business world or like in, I don't know, for me, global health and stuff like that. That really adds to it, and the opportunities that provides. So yeah, I think I ended up just saying that UCL is amazing, but hopefully you can take a few of those negatives and see what you think of them. What do you think is a bad part of going to a medical school like UCL? Do you guys have any questions about UCL and the med school itself? Feel free to drop them below. Nuna, I see you have a question. Nuna from YouTube, YouTube Live. Hi, I have a question about BMAT scores. Would a low result in an automatic rejection? Nuna, that depends on the med school that you apply to. An automatic rejection can be based on your BMAT score. If you're at a place like, if you're applying for someone like Imperial, where they have a cutoff score for your BMAT. I don't know what their cutoff score is. They don't always publish it, but have a look around for it. And I think it's just like below average / quite like the second or third bottom deciles scores. So just have a look online at those things. That might mean automatic rejection, but I don't know about all the other universities. I think what I've mentioned before in previous live streams is to go on the medical schools website, Medical Schools Council website, where they have a document about all the medical schools in the country and their application criteria and their and the fact that their application criteria and what they look for and what they use in the application to weight and stuff like that. See what they say about BMAT. Can you make it to UCL with a low BMAT? Technically, yes, Nadine, you can. But it does, like, there's nothing to say you can't, but I think it's just more about who you're in competition against. I think in recent years, the competition to get into UCL has become more difficult. So obviously, therefore, they'll be looking at more in your application process overall. So UCL look at your entire application process, is what is said by the admissions tutors, whether that be your personal statement, your reference, your predicted grades, your GCSEs, your BMAT score, all of that. And then from that, they decide on your interview. So, for example, I had a below average BMAT score. This was 6 or 7 years ago, and I got an interview. But I know people who got worse than me, better than me, and still didn't get interviews. We can't really tell you why we did or didn't because we don't know ourselves. It's a little bit of a gamble. But what I'd encourage you to do is ask the admissions tutors of these medical schools and ask them what they're looking for specifically in the BMATs or like the scores or like work in general. But obviously, the higher the BMAT score, the better chance you have of getting in. But you got to believe that if you're going to take the risk to apply to somewhere like UCL, you've got to believe in yourself and work hard enough to try and get a good BMAT score. You don't have to get 100%. You just need to get a decent score, I think, and then take it from there. Another aspiring medic, you're very welcome. Been trying to be as useful as possible. What medical school, Nadine? I was talking about UCL. Yep, that's that. Nuna, I hope I've answered your question to an extent. Please feel free to drop me another question if you have a follow-up. So, next question I have is from Mike_IKL. Is it worth doing the BMAT just to apply to one uni with it? Does doing the BMAT impact A-level and UCAT revision? Mike, that's a really good question, actually. And I applied to 2 BMAT universities, 1 UCAT university, and I did the UCAT and put all my efforts into the UCAT, even just for that 1 university. And yeah, so I'd say, yes, it's worth doing the BMAT if there's a university that you really want to go to and that has the BMAT, for example, and if that university is good in terms of like you can see the application and you're like your application would suit well to getting into that university, go for it. Don't let the BMAT put you off. So my short answer is yes, it's worth doing the BMAT just to get into that 1 university, because you just need that 1 interview, 1 offer, and that's you becoming a med student and that's you becoming a doctor. You just need 1. So like myself, I only had 1 offer for med school. That's from UCL. I obviously took that offer, met the offer, and now I'm in med school and I'm hopefully going to become a doctor. Like, it's insane. It's just one offer that you need out of the 4 that you apply to. So just that's the way you should think of it, and just do your best for it. And if it's just 1 university that you've applied to for BMAT, then obviously it puts the pressure off as well of the exam, because obviously you've got your eggs in other baskets as well. Does the BMAT impact on your doing A-level or UCAT? In my opinion, no. If you do the UCAT in November, or like if you've done the UCAT well before your BMAT, your UCAT revision is done. You've done the exam, 3-4 weeks of revision done, and then 3-4 weeks of BMAT revision, and then that's it done. And then of those 3-4 weeks of BMAT revision, the first 2 weeks will probably be alongside schoolwork. The next 2 weeks will be a little bit more intense, and the last week will be the most intense. Like, that's it. So that last week is basically where you're not going to do any A-level work or anything else. You're just going to work on BMAT. But the rest of it, you're not really missing out on much. If you look at the grand scheme of things, you're not really going to like go crazy. Like you're going to be working for A-levels, but you don't really need to work really, really intensely for A-levels until closer to exam time, which is more term 2 and then going into term 3. That's when things step up. Term 1, especially the first 1 or 2 months, it's all about coming back to school, getting yourself acquainted with A-level stuff again. And you can put the effort in like later on. So like for myself, I was like, for the BMAT, I'm going to sacrifice 2 weeks of my A-level schedule. And so what I did is just work a little bit harder during the Christmas holidays to substitute those 2 weeks. And then I did the BMAT when I did it a couple of weeks before. Mike, I hope I've answered your question there. If you do have a follow-up, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer it. Thank you for your question. Cool. Nadine's got another question. So her question is, how has COVID affected med students at UCL? COVID's been very tricky for us, as it has been for everyone. In the first wave, all our clinical placements got cancelled. At UCL for clinical years, which was very, I think, thoughtful of UCL because we didn't know the effects of the virus, and it was just a difficult circumstance. And then what we had is everything online. So we had online lectures and tutorials for everyone from year 1 to 5. And then we did our exams online as well. No clinical placement for about three months, which is pretty insane when you think of it. And then when it came to the second wave, what we're talking about now from the summer onwards, final year medical students have been basically just doing normal stuff on placement as per usual. COVID risk is there, but we're medical students and we've been classed as frontline workers now. So we just continued as per usual. Obviously, because there's less staff on the wards, or there's a lot more difficulty on the staff members and doctors because of COVID at certain times, we maybe have fewer teaching sessions here or there, or like the quality maybe suffers a little bit, but we're still doing our stuff and we're still revising, we're still working for exams, and we're having that. Our exams are being delayed for final year. That's the only other thing. And then for the other years, the other clinical medical students are being able to like their placements are being like converted, whether like for like a couple of weeks you could volunteer in ITU or places where the hospital needs the most help. So medical students have the opportunity to kind of help in those ways, and if they can't do that or don't want to, that's fine on them as well. And like clinical placement is like, just there's been reduced time of clinical placement, so instead of having like 50 weeks of, let's say 40 weeks of clinical placement straight, you have more like 20 weeks of placement, 20 weeks of no placement, where you're doing like bookwork, self-studying and stuff. That's what a lot of the early clinical years are doing, and the pre-clinical years are having the time of their lives. A lot of their exams are getting cancelled or got cancelled last year, which is pretty nice for them, because in pre-clinical year things aren't obviously as tough. Obviously in clinical years, that's when you need to see how good you are to get through each year. But yeah, what I'd actually say to you guys is have a look at how medical schools across the country have responded to COVID, the pandemic, and how they've treated their medical students during that pandemic. Whether they've sympathized with them and delayed exams, or given them extenuating circumstances, or they've adapted teaching to help people out, or like basically have a look at the universities and their responses, because it will tell you a lot about their staff, the way that university functions, how much they value you as a future medical student. I'd really look hard and see those medical schools that you don't agree with their response. You should question whether you should apply to them, because then you'll be questioning how much of this well-being have they taken into account. For example, would you be that medical student in that position if it came to it? So it's a really important question to ask all medical schools in general, because you don't want to be at a medical school that completely neglects the pandemic's going on, and then your safety is at risk and your mental health is intact, and they're still demanding you to go to medical school or like to universities. Like, really cut through the jargon that they have online and ask the direct questions, I think, to medical students, to see what's actually going on in the background, because that's a good, reliable indicator of how they'll treat you as a medical student, which is important, because you as a medical student are a human being with feelings and a life, and you did not sign up to work in a pandemic, for example. So yeah, have a look. Overall, I think UCLMS students have been affected by COVID, but not catastrophically. I think UCL Med School have done really well trying to get through it, as have most medical schools, because they really do want to care about their medical students, which is nice to see. Cool. The next question is from another aspiring doctor. Yes, another aspiring medic. You are spot on there. I like your thinking. You know how you distinguish good vegetable spice? That's how I've been distinguishing unis by their COVID protocol. You're a very clever person. I appreciate that. Yeah, good. So, the next question you've asked is, how likely are doctors to pay off their student loans in the 30 years under the current pay My answer to that question is I don't know. I thought originally that we do pay them off, and like progression and like plan progression throughout like the medical career. But recently, a few people have said no, we don't because of the interest rate, and the interest rate is like 2 to 3%. Sometimes went up to 6% or something, based on an RPI, and based on that would determine if we pay that off in our installments and our like our degree. I'm just trying to think of. I think, but the best way that I think of student loans and student like a tax, it's like a tax and an investment. It's an investment into my future plans, my growth, my like career, how much earn, all of that, and it's like paying a tax every month or year when I do paying it back. Yeah, I'll have a look actually because I need to know. I've had a few debates with my friends. I'm gonna try and calculate, and if you ask me this question again in the next few, you know what? I'm gonna screenshot this and I'm gonna send it to the Medmentor them if they can do some of the work for me. And I'll get back to the answer to that one. Cool. Yes, the salary in the UK is really low for doctors compared to other doctors around the world, just like Canada and America. You do. Yeah, that's a new topic. What do you guys think of um, what are you thinking of when entering this career? I think a lot of medical, a lot of F1s and F2s mean apply to, okay, I'm going to be real with you guys here. When I did work experience in hospitals and I saw F1s and F2s, they ordered me to run away from medicine, which was very nice of them. And they basically all said, don't do medicine. I was very smart. You've got loads of things good for you. Do something out of your life. A lot of them said, like, don't do finance or do this or do that. And obviously, I didn't listen to why I'm here because I was like, no, I want to do medicine. I'll make a difference, etc., etc. I obviously have my reasons, so does everyone else. But you do check yourself as you go and become more of a grown-up, more that money becomes worthwhile in your life personally. And money is a dirty word in medicine, as I think Ali Abdal mentions a lot of the time, who is very much a pioneer of the field of talking about how much you earn, especially in medicine, your value worth, because in society, your value of work is reimbursed and representative through the amount that someone pays you, because we live in a capitalist society and economy. Whilst it's interesting that in the NHS, we live less in that world where doctors obviously in F1, F2 don't get paid a lot, but what's worse is HCAs, nurses, and I think what really hits me when I work, like when I'm on the hospital wards, is I'm just sitting there looking at all the nurses, HCAs working, or like the PAs, the physician associates, and the porters. They're working so hard to make such a difference on an individual patient's life, and I don't think they, for example, in my opinion, get reimbursed for what they do, compared to other people in society, and it really annoys me and it disheartens me, I think, because obviously they're my team members and they're my friends when I work with them and stuff. Like, you get to have personal connections, and I think that's something that really needs to change in the next few years. And it's up to you guys and us as the new generation of healthcare professionals going through to basically try and change that and talk about money more and how much value you add to an organization. And yes, Amy, the work experience, well, I did work experience and I saw the same thing. And HCAs deserve so much more. And it's interesting because HCAs look like they're the cheap alternative of doing doctors' work these days. So it's like cut a doctor's salary and get more HCAs involved, and then that's your solution, which is like a race to the bottom in terms of pay scale, when actually it's all about the skills that someone has. And it's a shame, and it's something for you guys to think about a lot more in the future. Yeah, and in terms of pay, obviously no doctor is poor. Like, all doctors are middle class, like well off to an extent. And so therefore, like for me, when I was making the decision of whether I should go into finance or medicine, should I go for chase the money or not, I think I wasn't motivated enough by the money, but money is still an impact. But like, yeah, I don't know, it's something to think about. And that's why a lot of medics or like people, healthcare assistants or professionals, like they all have other things that they're looking for to monetize as well, alongside medicine. Like, I don't know, there's a lot to it. And we can maybe discuss as you go along on the comments in the next few weeks if you keep asking these questions. So I always think about these type of things. Cool. Thank you. Okay, another aspiring medic said, thank you to Taf and Amy. I've been researching into this and it's confusing. Also, that would be great. Thank you to the Medmentor team. Cool. Next week, we'll get an answer to you. Yes, I did some work experience with HCA. Hello, Roshan. How are you doing? And how did your interview go from the week before? Hope it went well. Let us know in the comments. Roshan goes, you're so right about the other members within the MDT. The pressures on these roles is immense and the payment does not reflect that. I remember, Roshan, you said that you work in a hospital as well. So feel free to add your views because yeah, I mean, like, why did you apply to become a doctor instead of continuing working within the MDT? And like, I think a lot of people ask the question, why nursing and why did you apply to be a doctor and not nursing? And there's loads of answers to why, like, someone might want or you might want to become a doctor instead of a nurse. But one key answer that is not looked right, like, well upon in interviews for whatever reason, is that actually nurses get paid much less for the work that they do. And on an individual level, like, why would you, if you had the choice to become a doctor or a nurse and you had money as a thought process behind that, why would you not go to become a doctor if you had the opportunity to earn that much more money for doing some very similar work, if not a little bit more, sometimes harder, sometimes less harder than a nurse, for example? Those are really interesting questions. Those are very blunt answers to some of those questions you can have, but something to think about in general, especially for you guys about to enter medical school and the medical field. Amy goes, yep. I think when people consider med for the money, they think that our salary is similar to Americans. Like, nope, don't do it for the money, please, and thank you. And I think it's a shame that that's what it's come to. And it does end up, what it can end up doing is by providing less reimbursement for the work that you do, because that's what it is. Your time is your value, right? The less you reimburse someone, the less you're gonna get the most amazing people in that can go into this field, and that's where you start getting brain drain into other organizations. So like the NHS, a doctor working for NHS, they might be working for a tech firm or like firm, or like they do reimburse very well for medics who leave medicine, leave and feel more value in another organization outside of the NHS as an individual member, not just because in terms of just like institutional, just like the process in general, not being treated badly and things. But obviously, that's a general. But what I say, I wouldn't medicine degree, because if you want to not do medicine at any point and you've had enough, you can always jump out and you can do something completely different if you like, because an MBBS degree is amazing. It's like any other degree, you can do anything with it. It's a very high level degree. So yeah, so if you don't like it, you can jump out at any moment, so don't worry about it. Cool. Roshan goes, thanks, Hafsa. It went quite well, actually. Don't think I was able to share as much as I wanted to, and don't think I demonstrated everything that I've done. But as a whole, I'm happy with it. Roshan, that sounds like the classic answer to any how did your interview go? I think that was me with every interview I've ever had, and I think that's all my mentees and everyone I've ever asked. So I think that's as good as it can go. Good luck with the outcome. Hopefully it goes well, and keep us updated. It's good to see you've done it, and well done on doing it. Woo, congratulations, you're free. So that's good. That's good. Cool. The next question I have is from another aspiring medic. In which ways can you get involved in humanitarian med as a med student? Cool. First of all, I'd say do some reading. I read The War Doctor recently. Great book for any humanitarian medics, and I think another aspiring medic, you've read it as well. So like for you guys out there, so read up on these type of books, watch a few documentaries and stuff like that. Like it's just to get yourself into that sphere. Friends of MSF, so MSF, Medicine Sans Frontières, they have like a podcast about Doctors Without Borders. I've listened to a few of those things. And I think when you get into medical school, there's loads of societies involved in similar things. So like there's a Wilderness Medicine Society, there's Friends of Medicine Sans Frontières Society that I was part of, for example, in my second and third year. And that's where I met loads of people and doctors and networked with those people and medical students as well who wanted to go into humanitarian medicine. And I like developed those networks. I learned from them a lot, and I learned what I needed to do maybe in the future to do like a degree or like an extra course in working within humanitarian medicine. My personal route into humanitarian medicine at the moment is that I'm part of a charity called MA. We stand for the Maternal Aid Association. We work in developing countries, and right now in Bangladesh, in rural villages, and I am head of the academics team in the charity. And so I work for the charity as a volunteer, and what we're trying to do is change maternal health care for the better in Bangladesh, in rural Bangladesh, working with the government and other organizations. And we ourselves are a charity that an established charity, and it's pretty amazing because I got involved in this in second year, where I joined the team to deliver maternal health camps in rural Bangladesh in my second year summer and my third year summer of med school. A group of other like 8-9 other medical students. And the reason why I say this is because I thought I wouldn't be able to get involved in humanitarian medicine until I became like a consultant. And so that was further down the line when I was maybe like 30 or 40. But right now I'm working within humanitarian medicine and working within a charity organization, really enjoying it and the benefits that come with it. The fact that like the satisfaction of the work that you can do and helping people with that, even at such an early stage of my career/student life. So plenty of opportunities to get involved with stuff. And there's so many other non-government organizations called NGOs and charities to work at. And that's a great way to start for humanitarian medicine. As a med student, you volunteering your time for them. And then from there, things kind of escalate, opportunities come about, doors open. You don't know what, like one thing leads to another. So that you just get involved through societies and organizations. And you take it from there. So hopefully we do something within humanitarian medicine, and I'll see you there, another aspiring medic. If you need anything regarding it, again, feel free to always ask questions here. Be happy to answer them. So section 3 of the BMAT is really putting me off because I am absolutely rubbish at essays, especially having to write ones under timed conditions. Sorry, I can't read the rest of your comment box for some reason on Instagram. It's a bit weird, but I think that's what the thing is. I think section 3, I don't think most people are good at essays. However, section 3 doesn't have that much of a weighting in your entire BMAT application process. If you get about average is pretty good, I think, and just practice really makes a difference. It's less about essay writing. It's much more about just getting your points across really quickly and getting those marks in the mark scheme. So I'd look at it just like any biology 6-mark question or something. That's an essay question. You don't have to write an essay. You're just writing the points that will get you the marks in the essay, and then make sure your English and grammar are well, which is just done by practice. So head up, I'm sure you'll do fine, Mike, and good luck with it. Cool. All right. So Roshan, you said cool. Have another one on Monday. So that's a nice surprise. Hopefully the next one will be better. Roshan, that's amazing. Good luck with your interview on Monday, and keep us updated on that. That's so good to hear. Nice little surprise indeed. So stress not completely gone, but it will be gone a little bit more on Monday afternoon, which is good. All the best. It's so hard to judge your own performance at an interview because only the interviewers are best placed to do that. That's true. trust me, as an interviewer myself, I think most people think it's gone worse than it has, and it's always a learning opportunity, so that's great. Hopefully it went well though, and good luck again. Also, that's a great insight into it. It was really inspiring. You're very welcome, another Aspiring Medic. Do follow the, like, for stuff that we do, and like we have vacancies and volunteering opportunities. And so when you do get into med school, you have an opportunity there if you want to have a look at stuff. And there's lots of organizations and charities that need people's and volunteers' helps. Just be on the lookout, and you do well. You're very enthusiastic. Here is and Amy, and it's good, just good to see. So you guys will get places, and just great. Hope you guys get the application cycle too. Thanks, Rodin, for your nice little words as well. Thank you so much for engaging. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you guys. If anyone has any last questions, feel free to Medmentor throughout the week. Just join us on Saturday. We'll be back for the Medmentor, and then will be loads of snippets on Instagram, thanks to our amazing Medmentor team that work on social media, put blog. We've got loads of resources online that are free to use. Hopefully they're useful to you guys, and if there's anything that you guys want to see more, like drop us a message and things like that. But we're working really hard to make this application process as easy as possible for you guys, and hopefully if you guys can share it with your friends and your family and stuff who are interested in applying to med school, please feel free to do so. We want to help as many people as we can. So thank you guys so much for joining. Roshan, it's been a pleasure. Good luck on Monday, another Aspiring Medic. Thank you so much for your engagement. It's been so lovely. Amy, it's nice to have you on. I don't know if it's maybe the first or second time. So hope to see you again soon. Iman, hey, it's good to see you back on this. And so yeah, please do join us again. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Take care of yourself. Hopefully it's been useful. And I'll see you next week. Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Well, good. All right. Good luck. Good luck, guys. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.